The sterile white walls of Dr. Elena Vasquez's laboratory hummed with the quiet efficiency of tomorrow. Holographic displays flickered in the air around her workstation, casting blue light across her determined face as she manipulated neural pathways on a three-dimensional brain scan. Robotic arms moved with precision, assembling microscopic components that would soon bridge the gap between flesh and circuitry. Elena paused, her fingers hovering over the neural interface she had spent months perfecting. The weight of what she was creating pressed against her conscience like a stone. These weren't just technological marvels. They were the instruments that would transform Earth's most loyal companions into weapons of war. Another sleepless night, Doctor? The voice belonged to her assistant, Marcus, who approached carrying a steaming cup of coffee. Elena accepted the cup gratefully, her eyes never leaving the delicate machinery before her. The dire wolves won't wait for us to perfect our ethical debates, Marcus. Every day we delay means more colonies fall. The holographic news feed in the corner of the lab displayed the latest casualty reports from the Outer Rim. Entire settlements reduced to ash and bone by creatures that should have existed only in nightmares. The images of massive, wolf-like beings with glowing eyes and telepathic coordination haunted Elena's dreams. A soft whimper drew her attention to the adjacent chamber, where Max lay on a cushioned examination table. The German shepherd's intelligent brown eyes tracked Elena's movement as she approached. Surgical scars along his spine marked where the first-generation cybernetic implants had been installed, silver threads barely visible beneath his thick fur. Elena knelt beside him, running her hand along his head with practiced gentleness. "How are you feeling, boy?" Max's tail thumped once against the table. The neural link activated with a soft chime, and his thoughts reached her mind with startling clarity, ready to protect, ready to serve. But the wolf dreams trouble me. Elena's breath caught. The neural interface wasn't supposed to allow such complex communication yet. Max was evolving faster than her calculations had predicted, developing an awareness that both thrilled and terrified her. "What wolf dreams?" she whispered. Images flashed through the link, vast ships blocking out stars, yellow eyes filled with ancient intelligence, and a presence so overwhelming it made Max's enhanced nervous system recoil. "They're coming, Elena. Soon." A proximity alarm shattered the quiet of the laboratory. Emergency lights bathed everything in red as news feeds across the room erupted with breaking reports. Elena's blood turned to ice as she watched live footage from the orbital defense platforms. The ships that emerged from hyperspace were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Massive vessels shaped like elongated wolves, their hulls seeming to ripple with organic movement. They arranged themselves in perfect formation around Earth, their synchronized movement speaking to a hive-mind coordination that human military strategists had only theorized about. The lead ship's communication array flared to life, and a voice filled with cold authority echoed through every speaker on Earth. "Humans of the third planet, I am the Emperor of the Dire Wolf Collective. Your species has trespassed upon worlds that belong to us. Your colonies have defiled sacred hunting grounds. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift." Elena's hands trembled as she helped Max down from the examination table. His enhanced muscles rippled beneath his fur, hydraulic actuators responding to his increased heart rate. The neural link buzzed with his determination and fear. "We won't surrender," Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. The Emperor's laughter was like breaking glass. "Then you will learn why wolves hunt in packs, and why the weak serve as prey." The first orbital strike hit New York 3 minutes later. Elena watched through satellite feeds as Manhattan's skyline vanished in a pillar of superheated plasma. The shock wave rippled outward, turning concrete and steel into dust and memory. 8 million lives ended in seconds. Max pressed against Elena's leg, his warmth a small comfort against the magnitude of what they faced. The pack must hunt together, his thoughts whispered through the link. Or we all fall alone. Elena's secure communication device chirped with incoming priority messages from military command, from desperate politicians, from scientists around the world, all asking the same question. Were the war dogs ready? She looked down at Max, at the loyal eyes that held far more intelligence than any dog should possess, at the fusion of nature and technology that represented humanity's last desperate gamble. "No," she said aloud. "But ready or not, it's time to hunt." The transport ship that carried them to Luna Base felt cramped despite its military specifications. Elena sat across from Max in the passenger compartment, watching Earth shrink behind them through the small porthole. The blue marble that had been humanity's cradle now bore a spreading scar where New York had once stood. General Morrison, a weathered veteran whose cybernetic arm gleamed under the ship's harsh lighting, briefed them on the tactical situation. "Luna Base is our forward position. If the dire wolves take it, they control the high ground over Earth. Your war dogs are our only advantage. They can't read canine thoughts the way they infiltrate human minds." Elena felt Max's attention sharpen through their neural link. The other war dogs in the transport bay, 12 of them total, shifted restlessly in their harnesses. These were the prototype generation, equipped with basic enhancement packages, but nowhere near the sophistication Elena had planned for full deployment. "What about their casualties from the New York strike?" Elena asked. Morrison's expression darkened. "None. Their shields absorbed our retaliatory strikes without a flicker. Whatever technology they're using, it's centuries beyond ours." Luna Base appeared ahead of them, a sprawling complex of domes and connecting tunnels built into the regolith of humanity's first stepping stone to the stars. Emergency lights flickered along its perimeter as defensive turrets swiveled to track incoming contacts. Max's thoughts pressed against Elena's consciousness. Something's wrong. The scent of fear is too strong. Before she could respond, the ship's proximity alarm screamed. Through the porthole, Elena watched in horror as sleek shapes materialized from the lunar shadows. Dire wolves in vacuum suits, their forms grotesquely adapted for space combat. They moved with impossible coordination, each one knowing instinctively where the others would be. The first impact nearly threw Elena from her seat. Claws designed to rend metal scored deep gouges in the transport's hull as a dire wolf landed on their roof. Its eyes, visible through its helmet's faceplate, burned with an intelligence that was both alien and terrifyingly familiar. "Boarding action," Morrison shouted, drawing his sidearm. "Release the dogs." The harness locks disengaged with mechanical precision. Max was the first to his feet, his enhanced reflexes bringing him to full alertness instantly. The other war dogs followed his lead, their various breeds united by the technology that had transformed them from pets into soldiers. Elena's heart hammered as she watched Max approach the sealed hatch where something was trying to cut its way through. Steam rose from the metal as molecular disruptors ate through the ship's armor plating. "Be careful," she projected through their link. Max's response carried the weight of absolute loyalty. "I was born to protect the pack. This is what I was made for." The hatch exploded inward, and Luna Base's battle began in earnest. The dire wolf that squeezed through the breached hatch was impossibly large, its shoulders broader than Elena had imagined possible. Even constrained by its vacuum suit, the creature radiated a predatory grace that made her enhancement technology seem crude by comparison. Its eyes found Max immediately, recognition flashing between two apex predators. Max launched himself forward without hesitation, his cybernetic enhanced legs providing thrust that would have been impossible for an unmodified dog. The collision sent both creatures tumbling through the transport's cramped passenger compartment, claws and teeth seeking vulnerable points through protective gear. Elena pressed herself against the bulkhead as other war dogs poured past her toward additional breach points. The sounds of battle filled the confined space. Snarls, the whine of energy weapons, the sharp crack of breaking composite materials. Through the neural link, Elena felt Max's combat analysis running in parallel with his instincts. The dire wolf was stronger, but Max's enhancements gave him advantages in speed and tactical awareness. His opponent fought with pure physical dominance, while Max adapted, using the transport's interior structure to his advantage. Its left shoulder joint, Max's thoughts flashed through their connection. Weak point in the suit design. Elena watched in fascination and horror as Max feinted high, then dove low, his reinforced teeth finding the precise spot where the dire wolf's armor plating created a vulnerable seam. Synthetic blood spurted across the compartment walls as Max's opponent howled, a sound that seemed to bypass Elena's ears and resonate directly in her bones. General Morrison was coordinating the defense through his command interface, but Elena could see the strain in his expression. Luna Base is reporting massive casualties. The dire wolves are inside the perimeter. The transport shuddered as their pilot executed emergency maneuvers, trying to reach the base while under constant attack. Through the porthole, Elena glimpsed the full scope of the battle unfolding across Luna's surface. Dire wolf forces moved in perfect synchronization, their tactics flowing like water around human defensive positions. Max delivered the killing blow to his opponent with surgical precision, his enhanced jaws crushing the creature's throat through its protective suit. As the dire wolf collapsed, Elena felt something unexpected through their neural link. Not triumph, but a complex mixture of respect and sorrow. "They fight with honor," Max communicated. "This troubles me." Before Elena could respond, the transport touched down on Luna Base's landing pad with bone-jarring force. The airlock cycled rapidly, and Elena found herself breathing recycled lunar atmosphere that tasted of fear and desperation. Commander Sarah Chun, Luna Base's commanding officer, met them at the airlock. Her uniform was torn and blood-stained, her left arm hanging useless at her side. "Thank God you're here. We've lost the North Sector entirely. The dire wolves, they're not just attacking randomly. They're hunting specific targets." Elena's scientific mind seized on the detail. "What kind of targets?" "Command personnel, communication specialists, anyone with tactical knowledge." Chen's eyes were haunted. "It's like they can smell competence." Max padded beside Elena as they moved through Luna Base's corridors. The facility bore the scars of running battles, blast marks on walls, emergency seals where sections had been breached, the metallic scent of spilled blood, both human and alien. They reached the command center just as another wave of dire wolves breached the main defensive line. Elena watched through security feeds as creatures the size of bears moved through the base's corridors with impossible stealth, their enhanced senses guiding them toward critical infrastructure. "Sector 7 is reporting contact," a communications officer announced, his voice tight with controlled panic. "Multiple hostiles, moving toward the reactor core." Elena felt Max tense beside her, his enhanced nervous system processing threat assessments faster than any human could follow. "I must hunt them." His thoughts pressed against her consciousness. "The pack requires protection." "No," Elena said aloud, drawing stares from the command staff. "It's too dangerous. You're not ready for it." Max's eyes met hers, and Elena saw something in them that hadn't been there before the enhancement surgery. Not just intelligence, but wisdom. The neural link carried his response with absolute clarity. "I was never meant to be safe. I was meant to be necessary." Before Elena could stop him, Max bounded from the command center, following scent trails that led deeper into Luna Base's compromised sections. Elena's heart hammered as she watched him disappear around a corner, their neural links stretching to its maximum range. General Morrison placed a hand on her shoulder. "You gave him the tools to fight. Now you have to trust him to use them." Through the increasingly tenuous neural connection, Elena felt Max moving through darkened corridors where emergency lighting cast everything in hellish red. His enhanced hearing picked up the subtle sounds of dire wolf movement, the whisper of claws on metal, the soft exhalation of predators selecting their prey. The first dire wolf he encountered was larger than the one on the transport, its form adapted for terrestrial combat rather than space warfare. It turned at his approach with supernatural awareness, its yellow eyes reflecting intelligence that seemed both ancient and utterly alien. Elena gasped as the neural link transmitted Max's shock of recognition. This wasn't just another enemy. It was an alpha, a pack leader whose presence commanded respect, even from an enhanced human creation. The alpha spoke, its voice somehow reaching Max despite the lack of shared language. "You are not natural, small hunter. You smell of metal and human fear." Max's response surprised Elena with its dignity. "I am what I was made to be." "What are you?" "I am death to those who defile the sacred places," the alpha replied. "But you fight with honor." "This is unexpected." What followed was less a battle than a conversation conducted in claw and fawn. Elena felt every impact through the neural link, experienced Max's tactical decisions as he adapted to an opponent whose capabilities exceeded her original specifications by orders of magnitude. The Alpha was teaching him, Elena realized with growing amazement. Each exchange of attacks carried lessons about pack dynamics, about the flow of combat, about the respect owed between worthy opponents. Max was learning. When the fight ended, both combatants lay bleeding on Luna Base's deck plating. The Alpha's eyes held something like approval as life faded from them. You will make a worthy adversary when you have grown into your full strength, were its final transmitted thoughts. Elena's neural link with Max flickered and went silent. The silence in Elena's mind felt like a physical wound. She stood in Luna Base's command center, surrounded by tactical displays and urgent communications. But all she could think about was the absence where Max's consciousness had been. The neural link status indicators showed only static. Dr. Vasquez, Commander Chen's voice seemed to come from very far away. We're reading no life signs in Sector 7. Elena's legs gave out, and she sank into a nearby chair. Through the security feeds, she could see the corridor where Max had made his stand. Emergency lighting cast everything in shades of red and black, making it impossible to distinguish details. General Morrison was coordinating the withdrawal from compromised sections when a new alarm pierced the command center's controlled chaos. Multiple contacts approaching from the south tunnel, a sensor operator announced. They're moving fast. Elena looked up at the tactical display with empty eyes. More dire wolves, probably coming to confirm their Alpha's victory. The thought of Max lying broken in those dark corridors made her want to surrender, to let the inevitable happen without further struggle. Then the southern airlocks cycled open, and Max limped into the command center. Elena's cry of relief echoed off the reinforced walls as she rushed to him. His left flank bore deep claw marks, and his enhanced musculature showed signs of severe strain, but his eyes held a clarity that hadn't been there before. The neural link re-established itself with a surge of shared emotion. I have learned much. Max's thoughts carried new depth. The dire wolves are not evil. They are lonely. Lonely, Elena whispered, running her hands over his wounds to assess their severity. Max's memories flowed through their connection. Images of vast star fields where dire wolf packs hunted between worlds, of ancient territories lost to expanding human colonies, of a species driven from their ancestral homes by a younger, more aggressive civilization. They remember when these worlds were theirs, Max explained. Before humans came with fire and metal. They fight not from hatred, but from grief. Elena felt the foundation of her understanding shift. The dire wolves weren't monsters. They were refugees fighting to reclaim lost homes. The moral certainty that had driven her work on the War Dog program crumbled, replaced by a complex web of competing loyalties and ethical dilemmas. General Morrison approached, his expression grim. We've lost Luna Base. The dire wolves control everything except this command section, and our defensive perimeter is collapsing. Elena looked around the command center at the exhausted faces of Luna Base's defenders. These people had trusted her technology to protect them, had believed that enhanced dogs could somehow balance the scales against an enemy with superior numbers and capabilities. How long do we have? She asked. 30 minutes, maybe less. Morrison's cybernetic arm whirred as he activated his communication array. I'm ordering general evacuation. The transport ships will take as many personnel as possible back to Earth. Max pressed against Elena's leg, his warmth a comfort against the magnitude of their failure. Through their neural link, she felt his determination unchanged despite the revelations about their enemy's nature. The pack must be protected. His thoughts carried absolute conviction. This was always the way. Elena knelt beside him, meeting his gaze directly. What if protecting the pack means making peace instead of war? Max's response carried the weight of ancient wisdom. Then we learn to hunt together instead of hunting each other. The evacuation proceeded with military efficiency, but Elena could see the defeat in everyone's movements. Luna Base had been humanity's first significant attempt to stop the dire wolf advance, and its fall meant Earth's orbital defenses were now critically compromised. As their transport lifted off from Luna's surface, Elena watched through the porthole as dire wolf forces consolidated their control over the base. They moved with the same fluid coordination she had observed before, but now Max's memories allowed her to see the careful respect they showed for human casualties, the way they tended to their own wounded with communal devotion. They were monsters. They were a proud species fighting for survival, just as humanity was. The journey back to Earth passed in contemplative silence. Elena's mind raced with possibilities, with the beginnings of ideas that might offer alternatives to mutual extinction. Max dozed fitfully beside her, his enhanced nervous system processing the trauma of his first real battle. When Earth appeared in their forward viewports, Elena saw a world transformed by fear. The orbital defense platforms bristled with additional weaponry, while emergency broadcasts spoke of martial law and mandatory conscription. Humanity was preparing for a siege that could last generations. Elena's secure communication device chimed with priority messages from the War Dog Program Oversight Committee. They wanted immediate deployment of all enhanced units, wanted her to accelerate the production timeline regardless of safety concerns. She thought of Max's wisdom, of the Alpha Dire Wolf's final acknowledgement of honor between enemies, of the terrible loneliness that drove an entire species to reclaim what they had lost. "What if there's another way?" she whispered to Max. His response carried the hope that had sustained humanity through every dark hour. "Then we find it. Together." The transport touched down at Edwards Air Force Base under a sky streaked with the contrails of military aircraft. Elena gathered her research files and Max's medical data, knowing that the next phase of their work would be more crucial than anything they had accomplished before. As they walked across the tarmac toward the waiting military vehicles, Elena felt the weight of two species' futures pressing down on her shoulders. Somewhere in the depths of space, dire wolf fleets were gathering for an assault that would determine whether Earth remained humanity's home or became another forgotten colony. But for the first time since the crisis began, Elena carried something besides fear in her heart. She carried the possibility of understanding, the chance that enemies might become something else entirely. Max padded beside her, his enhanced senses already cataloging the scents and sounds of a world preparing for war. Through their neural link, Elena felt his quiet confidence, his unshakable belief that the pack, whatever form it ultimately took, would endure. The real battle was just beginning. The Emperor's voice echoed across every communication device on Earth with the cold finality of a death sentence. "Your species ends at dawn." Dr. Elena Vasquez's hands trembled as she watched the orbital bombardment begin through her laboratory's reinforced windows. Manhattan's skyline vanished in a pillar of superheated plasma that turned 8 million lives into ash in seconds. The shock wave rippled outward like the wrath of gods, reducing humanity's greatest city to a crater of molten glass. But Elena wasn't watching the destruction. Her eyes were fixed on the German shepherd lying motionless on the surgical table before her, silver neural threads barely visible beneath his thick fur. Max, humanity's first war dog, their last desperate hope against an enemy that commanded fleets of creatures the size of battleships. Elena. Max's voice materialized directly in her mind through the experimental neural link, carrying an intelligence that should have been impossible. "I can hear them calling. The wolves. They're singing." Elena's blood turned to ice. The neural interface wasn't supposed to be active yet. Max's enhanced brain wasn't ready for full consciousness integration. But as another city died in nuclear fire outside her window, she realized they were out of time for caution. "What are they singing about?" she whispered. Images flooded through their connection. Vast ships shaped like elongated wolves, their hulls rippling with organic movement. Creatures the size of bears moving through space with impossible grace, their yellow eyes burning with an intelligence older than human civilization. And beneath it all, a haunting melody that spoke of homes lost, of sacred hunting grounds defiled by a species too young to understand what it had destroyed. "They're singing about us," Max replied, his enhanced muscles already responding to the adrenaline flooding his modified nervous system. "About the prey that learned to bite back." Elena helped him down from the surgical table, her mind racing through calculations that spelled out humanity's extinction in stark mathematical terms. The dire wolves possessed technology centuries beyond Earth's capabilities, commanded fleets that could glass planets, and moved with hive mind coordination that made human military tactics obsolete. But they had never faced an enemy that could think like them. Max stretched, his cybernetic enhancements integrating seamlessly with enhanced reflexes and predatory instincts that evolution had spent millions of years perfecting. The hydraulic actuators in his legs responded to his movements with mechanical precision, while his reinforced skeleton provided a framework that could withstand impacts that would shatter human bones. "How do you feel?" Elena asked, running diagnostic scans through the neural link. Max's response carried layers of meaning that human language couldn't adequately express. He felt the weight of his species' loyalty, the burden of genetic programming that demanded he protect his pack at any cost. But beneath that, something else stirred, an awareness that transcended the boundaries between natural and artificial, between flesh and circuitry. "I feel necessary," he finally said. The laboratory's emergency systems activated as another orbital strike hammered London into rubble. Elena's holographic displays flickered with incoming data streams, casualty reports, military assessments, desperate messages from world leaders demanding immediate deployment of weapons that existed only in prototype form. Elena's secure communication device chimed with a priority message from General Morrison. His weathered face appeared on the screen, the background behind him showing the controlled chaos of NORAD's command center. "Dr. Vasquez, we need the war dogs operational immediately. The dire wolves have established orbital superiority, and their ground forces are beginning planetary insertion." Elena looked at Max, whose enhanced hearing was already tracking the approaching formations invisible to human senses. His ears swiveled with mechanical precision as acoustic sensors processed sounds beyond the normal canine range. "They're not ready," Elena said. "The neural integration is still experimental. The combat protocols are untested. We need at least." "We don't have time for perfection," Morrison interrupted. "Every minute we delay means more cities burn. Can they fight?" Max's thoughts pressed against Elena's consciousness with absolute certainty. "We were born to fight. The question is whether we fight alone or as a pack." Elena understood. The other prototypes, Fong, Shadow, Spark, and the rest, were scattered across secure facilities worldwide, their enhancement surgeries completed, but their neural links not yet fully integrated. Bringing them together would require resources and coordination that might not exist once the dire wolves reached Earth's surface. But Max was right. Wolves hunted in packs, and if humanity was going to survive, they needed to learn to think like predators. "Patch me through to all war dog facilities," Elena said. "Emergency activation protocol, Omega." Morrison's expression shifted from desperation to something approaching hope. "How long do you need?" Elena looked at Max, whose enhanced nervous system was already processing tactical scenarios at superhuman speed. Through their neural link, she felt his analysis of dire wolf movement patterns, his instinctive understanding of pack dynamics that no human strategist could match. "Give us 12 hours to assemble the pack," she said. "Then we hunt." The transport that carried them to Luna Base felt like a coffin racing toward a graveyard. Elena sat across from Max in the passenger compartment, watching Earth shrink behind them through the small porthole. The blue marble that had been humanity's cradle now bore spreading scars where 15 major cities had been reduced to radioactive glass. Max pressed against her leg, his warmth a small comfort against the magnitude of what they faced. The other war dogs secured in the transport bay represented different aspects of canine evolution optimized for warfare. Fong's Rottweiler strength enhanced with titanium bone reinforcements. Shadow's Doberman speed amplified by experimental muscle fibers. Spark's Border Collie intelligence augmented with quantum processing arrays. But it was Max who carried the burden of leadership, whose neural link with Elena created a bridge between human strategic thinking and predatory instincts. As they approached Luna Base, Elena felt his awareness expand to encompass not just the tactical situation, but the emotional weight of what they were attempting. "Scared?" she asked through their private connection. Max's response carried the complex mixture of fear and determination that had driven humanity to the stars. "Terrified. But terror sharpens the hunt." Luna Base appeared ahead of them, a sprawling complex of domes and connecting tunnels that represented humanity's first stepping stone to the cosmos. Emergency lights flickered along its perimeter as defensive turrets swiveled to track incoming contacts, But Elena could see the futility of conventional weapons against an enemy that commanded the void itself. The dire wolves had already landed. Sleek shapes moved across Luna's surface with impossible coordination, their forms adapted for vacuum warfare in ways that human evolution had never required. They wore no bulky environmental suits, their biology somehow compatible with the harsh environment of space. Elena watched through the transport sensors as they cut through Luna Base's outer defenses with weapons that seemed to bend reality around their targets. Contact in 60 seconds, the pilot announced, his voice tight with controlled fear. Recommend immediate combat deployment. The harness locks disengaged with mechanical precision. Max was the first to his feet, his enhanced reflexes bringing him to full alertness instantly. The other war dogs followed his lead, their various breeds united by the technology that had transformed them from pets into something unprecedented in Earth's history. Elena felt Max's thoughts flow through their neural link as he assessed the tactical situation. The dire wolves moved in perfect synchronization, each one instinctively aware of where the others would be. Their coordination spoke to a hive mind that operated on frequencies human technology couldn't even detect. But they had never encountered enemies that could think both as individuals and as a pack. Remember, Elena said aloud, her words reaching all the war dogs through their shared communication network. You're not just weapons. You're hunters. Use every advantage evolution and enhancement have given you. Max's response carried the weight of absolute loyalty. We hunt for the pack. All packs, even the ones that don't know we exist yet. The transport's airlock cycled open, and Luna Base's battle began in earnest. The dire wolf that met them in the docking bay was impossibly large, its shoulders broader than Elena had imagined possible. Even in Luna's reduced gravity, the creature moved with predatory grace that made her enhancement technology seem crude by comparison. Its eyes burned with intelligence that was both alien and terrifyingly familiar as they fixed on Max. Max launched himself forward without hesitation, his cybernetic enhanced legs providing thrust that would have been impossible for an unmodified dog. The collision sent both creatures tumbling across Luna Base's reinforced deck plating, claws and fangs seeking vulnerable points through the chaos of combat. Elena pressed herself against the bulkhead as other war dogs poured past her toward additional breach points. The sounds of battle filled the docking bay, snarls that seemed to bypass human hearing and resonate directly in the bones. The whine of energy weapons, the sharp crack of composite materials failing under stresses they were never designed to endure. Through the neural link, Elena felt Max's combat analysis running in parallel with his enhanced instincts. The dire wolf was stronger and possessed natural weapons that millions of years of evolution had perfected for killing. But Max's enhancements gave him advantages in speed and tactical awareness that his opponent couldn't match. More importantly, Max was learning. Each exchange of attacks taught him something about dire wolf psychology, about the rhythm of their movements, about the subtle tells that preceded their most devastating attacks. The neural link allowed Elena to experience his rapid adaptation in real time, to feel the moment when instinct and enhancement merged into something greater than the sum of their parts. The dire wolf's claws raked across Max's reinforced ribs, drawing sparks from the titanium mesh woven beneath his fur. But Max had already analyzed the attack pattern, had identified the slight overextension that left his opponent vulnerable for a crucial millisecond. His counterattack was surgical in its precision. Enhanced jaws found the exact point where the dire wolf's natural armor was weakest, crushing bone and severing vital arteries with mechanical efficiency. As his opponent collapsed, Elena felt something unexpected through their neural link. Not triumph, but a complex mixture of respect and sorrow. The dire wolf's eyes held no hatred as life faded from them, only a recognition that passed between two apex predators who understood the necessity of what had just occurred. They fight with honor, Max communicated through their link. This troubles me. Before Elena could respond, Fong's urgent transmission reached them through the pack communication network. The Rottweiler's enhanced strength was keeping 3 dire wolves at bay in the central corridor, but his tactical analysis suggested imminent tactical collapse. Max bounded toward the sounds of combat, his enhanced hearing tracking the complex symphony of battle throughout Luna Base. Elena followed as quickly as her unenhanced human reflexes allowed, her mind racing to process the tactical data flowing through the war dog's shared network. What she saw challenged every assumption about dire wolf capabilities. They weren't mindless predators driven by biological imperatives. They fought with sophisticated tactics that adapted in real time to the war dog's enhanced abilities. More disturbing still, they showed clear signs of individual personality, some preferring direct assault, others favoring stealth and misdirection. Shadow materialized from the ventilation system above a dire wolf that had cornered two human technicians. The Doberman's experimental muscle fibers allowed him to strike with cobra-like speed, his enhanced fangs delivering a neurotoxin that could incapacitate creatures 10 times his size. But the dire wolf twisted at the last second, somehow anticipating Shadow's attack vector despite the impossibility of detecting his approach. Claws that could shred battle armor caught Shadow across the hindquarters, sending him tumbling across the corridor floor. Elena watched in horror as the dire wolf prepared to deliver a killing blow, its intelligent eyes calculating the precise angle needed to penetrate Shadow's enhanced skeleton. Time seemed to slow as she realized her technology wasn't enough, that all her careful planning couldn't overcome millions of years of evolutionary optimization. Then Spark arrived. The Border Collie's quantum processing arrays had been analyzing dire wolf movement patterns since the first contact, building a predictive model of their tactical preferences. Where human strategists saw random violence, Spark identified underlying patterns that spoke to a sophisticated military doctrine. His attack wasn't designed to kill. Instead, Spark targeted specific pressure points that would disrupt the dire wolf's coordination without causing permanent damage. Enhanced teeth found nerve clusters that temporarily paralyzed voluntary muscle control, turning a deadly predator into a harmless mass of confused flesh. The dire wolf collapsed, its eyes wide with surprise and something that might have been respect. Spark stood over his disabled opponent, his head tilted in the characteristic pose that Elena recognized from countless training sessions. Interesting, Spark's thoughts reached the pack network with the analytical detachment of a scientist making a discovery. They're not trying to kill us. They're testing us. Elena felt the revelation ripple through the neural network connecting all the war dogs. The dire wolves weren't conducting a military assault on Luna Base. They were evaluating humanity's enhanced guardians, measuring their capabilities against some unknown standard. But testing them for what? Max's urgent transmission cut through Elena's speculation. He had reached the command center where Commander Sarachon was coordinating Luna Base's desperate defense. The tactical displays showed dire wolf forces throughout the facility, but their movements suggested capture rather than destruction as their primary objective. "They're hurting us," Chen said, her uniform torn and blood-stained, but her eyes clear with tactical understanding. "Pushing our personnel towards specific locations. It's like they want prisoners, not casualties." Elena felt the pieces of a larger puzzle beginning to align. The dire wolves possessed the technology to glass Luna Base from orbit, to eliminate every human presence in the facility without risking a single one of their own forces. Instead, they had chosen ground combat against enhanced opponents they couldn't have anticipated. Unless they had anticipated it. Max's thoughts pressed against Elena's consciousness with growing urgency. They knew we were coming. They're not here to conquer Luna Base. They're here to meet us. The realization hit Elena like a physical blow. The dire wolves hadn't attacked Luna Base to secure a strategic position. They had come here because they knew the war dogs would be deployed in its defense. This entire battle was an arranged encounter between two species, enhanced warriors. Someone had told them about the war dog program. Elena's secure communication device chimed with an incoming priority transmission. General Morrison's face appeared on the screen, but his expression carried none of the desperate urgency she had seen before. Instead, he looked almost relieved. "Dr. Vasquez, new intelligence has come to light regarding dire wolf tactical doctrine. We need immediate consultation with your pack leaders." Elena felt Max's suspicion flow through their neural link like ice water. His enhanced senses had detected subtle changes in Morrison's vocal patterns, micro-expressions that suggested deception or concealment. "What kind of intelligence?" Elena asked. Morrison's pause lasted a fraction of a second too long. "We've made contact with a dire wolf defector. She's provided information about their command structure that could change everything. Elena looked at Max, whose enhanced nervous system was processing threat assessments faster than any human could follow. Through the neural link, she felt his growing certainty that they were being manipulated, that the forces that had brought them to Luna Base served interests beyond simple military necessity. "Bring her here," Elena said. "We'll evaluate her intelligence in person." Morrison's smile didn't reach his eyes. "She's already on her way." The dire wolf that entered Luna Base's command center looked nothing like the warriors Elena had observed in combat. Where the others radiated predatory power, this one moved with careful deference that suggested deep intelligence coupled with genuine fear. Her fur was silver-white instead of the deep grays and blacks of her packmates, and her eyes held depths that spoke to experiences spanning far more than a single lifetime. She approached Max with body language that Elena recognized from years of studying canine behavior. Submission mixed with respect, the acknowledgement of a worthy alpha by an experienced beta. When she spoke, her words reached not just Max, but all the war dogs through whatever communication method the dire wolves used among themselves. "I am Luna," she said, her mental voice carrying harmonics that suggested vast loneliness. "I have watched your species for many cycles, seen the growth of your pack bonds. I bring warning and hope in equal measure." Elena felt Max's wariness through their neural link, but also his growing fascination. Luna represented something he had never encountered, an enemy that sought dialogue rather than dominance, that offered knowledge instead of demanding submission. "What warning?" Max asked, his thoughts carrying the authority of a pack leader addressing a potential ally. Luna's response came accompanied by images that staggered Elena with their scope and complexity. Vast star charts showing the expansion of human colonies across dire wolf territory. Ancient hunting grounds reduced to industrial wastelands. Sacred sites where dire wolf ancestors had first learned to sing to the stars, now covered with human settlements that had no knowledge of what they had displaced. But beneath the catalog of loss and violation, Luna showed them something else. Dire wolf fleet positions that spoke to a strategy far more sophisticated than simple revenge. The attacks on human colonies hadn't been random acts of territorial aggression. They had been carefully orchestrated tests designed to evaluate humanity's military capabilities and moral flexibility. "The Emperor seeks to understand whether your species can evolve beyond conquest," Luna explained. "Whether the pack bonds that define your enhanced guardians exist at the level of entire civilizations." Elena felt the weight of species-level judgment pressing down on her shoulders. Humanity was being tested not just for military capability, but for worthiness as a galactic neighbor. The dire wolves possessed the power to extinct human civilization, but they were offering the possibility of something unprecedented in either species' history. Coexistence. "What does the Emperor require?" Elena asked. Luna's gaze shifted to encompass all the war dogs present in the command center. Fong, Shadow, Spark, and the others formed an unconscious pack formation around Max, their enhanced senses alert for any sign of deception or danger. "Proof that humans can think beyond individual survival," Luna said. "That your pack bonds extend to species you have never met, worlds you will never see. The Emperor will judge your worthiness based on choices made in the crucible of absolute necessity." Max's thoughts pressed against Elena's consciousness with growing unease. She's describing a trial by combat, but not between armies, between philosophies. Elena understood. The dire wolves weren't just evaluating humanity's military capabilities. They were measuring the moral evolution that would determine whether two apex predator species could share the same galaxy without one destroying the other. The stakes had just become larger than planetary survival. They were fighting for the right to exist as something more than conquerors. Luna's next words confirmed Elena's worst fears. The Emperor's fleet will arrive at Earth in 18 hours. When they do, humanity will face a choice that will echo across the stars for generations. Choose wisely, pack leaders. The songs of both our species depend on your wisdom. The journey back to Earth passed in contemplative silence, punctuated by frantic preparation. Elena worked alongside the war dogs to integrate Luna's intelligence into their tactical planning, but her mind kept returning to the fundamental impossibility of their situation. How do you prove the moral worth of an entire species in the span of a single battle? Max lay beside her workstation, his enhanced nervous system processing scenarios faster than any human computer. Through their neural link, Elena felt his growing understanding of the challenge they faced. The dire wolves weren't interested in humanity's surrender or extinction. They wanted evidence that human civilization could evolve beyond its current limitations. What if we can't? Elena asked through their private connection. What if 18 hours isn't enough time to become what they need us to be? Max's response carried the quiet confidence that had sustained humanity through every dark hour. Then we become what we can be, and hope it's enough. Earth appeared in their forward viewports, transformed by preparation for siege. The orbital defense platforms had been reinforced with weapons that could theoretically challenge direwolf technology, while the planet's surface bristled with military installations designed to resist invasion. But Elena knew that conventional resistance would prove futile against an enemy that commanded the void itself. Humanity's only advantage lay in the unprecedented bond between species that the War Dog program had created, and the possibility that evolution and technology together could produce something worthy of preservation. As their transport touched down at Edwards Air Force Base, Elena gathered her research files and Max's medical data with hands that barely trembled. Somewhere in the depths of space, dire wolf fleets were gathering for an encounter that would determine whether Earth remained humanity's home or became another cautionary tale about species that failed to transcend their origins. The real test was about to begin. The emergency session of the United Nations had been moved to the deepest bunkers beneath Geneva, but Elena could still feel the weight of dire wolf fleets positioning themselves in the outer system. Max sat beside her in the secure briefing room, his enhanced senses tracking the barely controlled panic of world leaders who had been forced to confront the possibility of species-level extinction. Secretary General Martinez looked older than his 70 years as he addressed the assembled representatives. Ladies and gentlemen, we face an enemy that possesses overwhelming technological superiority. Our military advisors estimate that conventional resistance would last less than 6 hours against a full direwolf assault. Elena felt Max's attention sharpen through their neural link. His enhanced hearing was detecting subsonic communications between the war dogs positioned throughout the bunker complex, a network of enhanced guardians that had become humanity's most sophisticated early warning system. General Morrison stepped forward to present the tactical assessment that Elena had helped prepare. However, we have reason to believe that the dire wolves are not primarily interested in our military capabilities. Intelligence gathered through our War Dog program suggests that this is fundamentally a test of character rather than strength. The Chinese representative, Ambassador Chun, leaned forward with the intensity of someone whose civilization spanned millennia. What kind of test? Elena stood, feeling the weight of every gaze in the room. The dire wolves want to know if humanity can think beyond conquest and exploitation. They're offering us the chance to prove that we're capable of coexistence with species that don't share our evolutionary history. The Russian delegate's laugh held no humor. Coexistence? They've destroyed 15 of our major cities. They've killed millions of people. What kind of coexistence begins with genocide? Max's thoughts pressed against Elena's consciousness with growing urgency. Show them the real intelligence. Show them what Luna revealed about the colony attacks. Elena activated the holographic display system, filling the briefing room with star charts that showed the expansion of human colonies across direwolf territory. The silence that followed was deafening as world leaders confronted the scope of humanity's unconscious aggression. Every human colony established in the past 50 years was built on sites that the dire wolves consider sacred, Elena said. We didn't know because we never asked. We expanded across the galaxy, assuming it was empty because we couldn't imagine forms of intelligence that didn't mirror our own. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Humanity hadn't been the victim of unprovoked aggression. They had been the unconscious aggressors in a conflict that spanned decades of territorial violation. Ambassador Chen spoke with careful precision. Are you suggesting that our colonies deserve to be destroyed? I'm suggesting that both species are guilty of crimes against the other, Elena replied. The question is whether we can evolve beyond that cycle of retaliation before one of us commits genocide. Secretary General Martinez studied the dire wolf fleet positions with the expression of someone calculating odds that didn't favor survival. What exactly are they proposing? Elena felt Max's complex emotions flow through their neural link. Hope and fear intertwined with a loyalty that transcended species boundaries. Single combat between champions. Not to the death, but to demonstrate the principles that each species values most highly. The room erupted in protests and counterarguments, but Elena pressed on. They want to see if we can produce warriors who fight for something beyond personal survival or territorial expansion. If we can prove that human pack bonds extend to species we've never met, they'll consider us worthy neighbors. General Morrison's cybernetic arm whirred as he accessed classified files. And if we fail this test? Elena looked at Max, whose enhanced intelligence was processing scenarios that human minds couldn't fully grasp. Through their neural link, she felt his understanding of the stakes, not just for humanity, but for the concept of interspecies cooperation itself. Then they'll ensure that humanity never has the chance to threaten another species' existence, she said quietly. The vote was closer than Elena had expected, but the mathematics of their situation ultimately prevailed. Humanity would accept the dire wolves' challenge, would stake their species' future on the hope that evolution and technology together had produced something worthy of preservation. As the world leaders dispersed to prepare their civilizations for an outcome they couldn't control, Elena remained in the briefing room with Max and the other war dogs. Through their shared neural network, she felt their collective determination to prove that the bonds between species could transcend the brutal logic of natural selection. Scared? She asked Max through their private connection. His response carried the complex mixture of fear and purpose that had driven humanity to the stars. Terrified. But some things are worth being terrified for. The dire wolf fleet materialized in Earth's outer system with a precision that spoke to technology beyond human understanding. Elena watched from the observation deck of Orbital Platform 1 as ships the size of small moons arranged themselves in formations that seemed to pulse with organic life. The Emperor's flagship was unmistakable, a vessel that combined biological curves with geometric perfection, its hull seeming to ripple with the movement of creatures that existed at the boundary between technology and evolution. When it opened communication channels, the voice that emerged carried authority accumulated across stellar distances. Humans of the third planet, I am the Emperor of the Dire Wolf Collective. You have chosen to face judgment rather than submit to extinction. This shows wisdom that your species has rarely demonstrated. Elena felt Max tense beside her, his enhanced senses processing acoustic data that human ears couldn't detect. The Emperor's words carried subsonic harmonics that spoke to pack hierarchies older than recorded history. Your champions will face mine in single combat, the Emperor continued. Not to determine military supremacy, but to demonstrate the values that define your species' potential. Choose well. The songs of both our peoples depend on your wisdom. Elena activated the communication array that would broadcast humanity's response across both fleets. We accept your challenge, Emperor. Our champions fight not for conquest, but for the right of all species to find their place among the stars. The Emperor's approval resonated through frequencies that made Elena's bones vibrate. Interesting. Your champions speak of rights rather than power. We shall see if their actions match their words. The combat arena materialized in the space between the two fleets, a construct of force fields and artificial gravity that provided a neutral ground for the most important battle in human history. Elena watched through long-range sensors as dire wolf champions took their positions. Creatures that embodied millions of years of predatory evolution enhanced by technology that approached the boundaries of physics itself. But it was humanity's champions that held her attention. Max and his pack moved with coordination that transcended individual consciousness, their enhanced abilities integrated into a collective intelligence that neither species had anticipated. They were no longer just war dogs. They had become something entirely new. The first representatives of a hybrid consciousness that combined human innovation with canine loyalty, artificial enhancement with natural instinct. The battle began without ceremony, apex predators from two worlds meeting in the void between stars. Max launched himself across the combat arena with thrust that his enhanced legs made possible, but his trajectory was calculated by tactical algorithms that processed dire wolf movement patterns faster than conscious thought. His opponent, a creature the size of a small bear whose fur seemed to absorb light itself, responded with reflexes that had been honed across galactic distances. Elena felt every impact through their neural link, experienced Max's split-second tactical decisions as he adapted to an enemy whose capabilities exceeded every projection. The dire wolf champion fought with individual skill that spoke to generations of selective breeding, but Max fought as part of a larger consciousness that included not just his pack, but Elena herself. Shadow materialized from concealment that should have been impossible in the arena's controlled environment, his enhanced stealth capabilities allowing him to strike from angles that dire wolf senses couldn't predict. But his attack wasn't designed to inflict maximum damage. Instead, he targeted specific nerve clusters that would demonstrate surgical precision rather than brutal efficiency. The dire wolf champion twisted to avoid the strike, but Spark was already there, his quantum processing arrays having calculated the exact position where their opponent would attempt to evade. The border collie's enhanced teeth found pressure points that induced temporary paralysis without permanent injury. It was Fong who delivered the decisive blow, not a killing strike, but a demonstration of restraint that required far more skill than simple destruction. The Rottweiler's titanium-reinforced jaws could have crushed his opponent's skull, but instead applied precisely the pressure needed to induce unconsciousness without lasting harm. The dire wolf champion collapsed, his eyes holding something that might have been respect as awareness faded. Around the arena, other combats reached similar conclusions, not victories achieved through superior violence, but demonstrations of capability tempered by moral evolution. Elena felt tears streaming down her cheeks as she realized what the war dogs had accomplished. They had proven that humanity could produce warriors who fought for principles beyond personal survival, who could show mercy to enemies that had demonstrated none in return. The Emperor's voice echoed across the arena with harmonics that spoke to profound surprise. Remarkable. Your champions could have achieved total victory, but chose restraint. This suggests evolution beyond simple predatory dominance. Max padded to the center of the arena, his enhanced form bearing the scars of combat, but his eyes clear with purpose that transcended individual consciousness. When he spoke, his words reached both fleets through whatever communication method the dire wolves used among themselves. We fight not to prove our strength, but to earn the right to learn from each other, Max said. Both our species have made mistakes born of fear and isolation. Perhaps together we can become something neither could achieve alone. The silence that followed seemed to stretch across stellar distances. Elena held her breath as she felt the weight of species-level judgment pressing down on the arena, on the fragile hope that two apex predator civilizations could find common ground. The Emperor's response carried harmonics that spoke to ancient wisdom and hard-earned understanding. Your champions speak truth that echoes across the void. Both our species have forgotten that the galaxy is vast enough for many forms of consciousness. Elena felt hope bloom in her chest like a star being born. The dire wolves weren't just accepting humanity's worthiness. They were acknowledging the possibility of genuine cooperation between species that had every evolutionary reason to view each other as threats. What happens now? Elena asked through the communication array. The Emperor's reply carried the weight of decisions that would reshape galactic civilization. Now we learn to hunt together instead of hunting each other. Your pack bonds have proven stronger than territorial instincts. This gives both our species hope for evolution beyond conquest. Luna materialized beside Max in the arena, her silver-white form creating a bridge between two species that had found common ground in the void between stars. When she spoke, her words carried harmonics that suggested profound relief. The songs of both peoples will speak of this day, she said, of champions who chose wisdom over strength, cooperation over dominance. The galaxy has room for many forms of consciousness, and yours has earned its place among them. Elena felt Max's exhaustion and satisfaction flow through their neural link as he padded back toward the human transport ships. The war dogs had accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. They had proven that evolution could transcend its origins, that consciousness could choose cooperation over conquest. As the dire wolf fleet began dispersing to carry news of humanity's worthiness across the galaxy, Elena realized that this was only the beginning. Two species had found common ground, but the universe contained countless forms of consciousness that humanity had yet to encounter. The real adventure was just beginning. 6 months after first contact, Elena stood in the newly constructed interspecies research facility orbiting Earth, watching Max train the next generation of war dogs alongside Luna and her pack. The sight of human-enhanced canines working in perfect coordination with dire wolf advisors would have seemed impossible before the Emperor's challenge, but now it represented the future of galactic civilization. Max padded over to Elena's observation station, his enhanced form showing the accumulated wisdom of a being that had bridged the gap between species. Through their neural link, she felt his satisfaction at watching younger war dogs learn pack dynamics that incorporated dire wolf tactical doctrine. Any regrets? Elena asked through their private connection. Max's response carried the complex mixture of exhaustion and fulfillment that came from achieving something unprecedented. None. We've proven that consciousness can evolve beyond its origins. Both our species are stronger for having learned to think like each other. Elena looked out at the stars where human and dire wolf ships patrolled together, protecting colonies that now included multiple species working toward common goals. The galaxy was vast enough for many forms of consciousness, and humanity had earned its place among them. The songs of both peoples would remember this as the day when evolution chose cooperation over conquest, when pack bonds proved stronger than territorial instincts. Max and his war dogs have become something entirely new, the first ambassadors of a hybrid consciousness that offered hope for genuine interspecies understanding. As Elena watched Luna demonstrate dire wolf hunting techniques to an audience of fascinated war dogs, she realized that this was how civilizations truly evolved, not through conquest or dominance, but through the courage to imagine possibilities that transcended species boundaries. The real pack had always been larger than any single world could contain, but Triclawed can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.